Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at High Noon Heist by Table for Two Games.
High Noon Heist is a two-player dueling game in which one player plays as the law, the sheriffs, the deputies, that sort of thing, and the other player plays as the outlaws, the bandits. And so you've got one good guy, one bad guy. And with this game, each player is going to have the same hand of 7 cards with minor differences between the two different decks, but you will be dueling over different locations each round, trying to get as much loot or protect as much loot, and whoever has done the best at that at the end of the game is going to be the winner. This is coming to crowdfunding, so make sure to check out the link down below in the description of this video, but right now we're going to go down to the table and I'm going to show you how this game works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have High Noon Heist on the table. Let me show you about this Western-themed dueling game. Now, I do want to make sure you understand that everything you see here is prototype, so the final artwork components, maybe even some of the rules, might be a bit different once it's released from crowdfunding. That being said, what you have here with this game, you do have two decks, or two hands of cards. Here you've got the cards for the sheriff player, and as you can see, they are going to be numbered 0 through 7 with different characters and artwork and abilities on these cards, and I love the artwork here on this. The Western themed characters, and then you're going to have a player aid here specifically for the sheriff player, and the outlaw player will have a similar hand of cards that are numbered 0 through 7 that are going to have their own unique abilities on them, as well as their own player aid. In addition, you'll have these two cards over here that are going to represent where we're going to be placing some cards after each duel. You'll have a stack of location cards and a stack of loot cards. Now, in this game, players are going to sit across from one another. You'll have the outlaw player sitting on the side of the hideout and jail, whereas the sheriff player will be sitting on the side of the saloon and doctor's office, and you'll hold these cards away from the other player, keeping them in your hand like so. And what's going to happen, you'll arrange this deck in a manner in which you have all the cards that have these 3 slash marks on them. As you can see right here, you'll shuffle them all individually and you'll place them on the bottom of this stack, followed by the 2 slash marks and the single slash marks. And you'll place the whole deck face up. And what you're seeing here are different locations where you're going to be dueling it out, the outlaws and the sheriffs here. And so this first location is called the shootout here, and each location is going to have a specific event that's going to be happening at this particular location. And so this one, for instance, says that whoever loses this duel, that character will end up either in the doctor's office if they are a sheriff player, or the jail if they are an outlaw player. And then whoever wins this duel is going to receive this card and flip it over, and it's got 2 money bags on it. Money bags are victory points in this game, and so you'll just keep this card off to the side if you win it. And there's another example here, the outpost. Now in this particular one, the sheriff player, they have these little bars on their cards here to determine what rank they are. And so what this one is saying is that if the sheriff player plays a single bar ranked card, so that's going to be numbers 1, 2, and 3, then they will get 1 extra loot. They'll just get to take one of these cards over here, and as you can see, it has 1 loot bag on it, so this is worth 1 point. They don't have to play one of those cards. They could play any card that they wanted to, but if they were to do that, they would get 1 point, and then whoever won this particular location would get to turn this card over, and it would have 1 money bag on the back of it. But let's talk about what happens during a duel and how you win these cards. Now, each player will simultaneously select one of their 8 cards, 0 through 7, and play it face down in front of them on their side of the duel. Both players will be doing this at the same time, and once cards are locked in, you'll flip them over to reveal what you've played. Now, the card that has the lower number will activate first. And so in this case, the deputy is going to go first and do the ability that's on the card. And this one says, if your rival's card has 1 star on it, place them in jail and take a loot. Now in this case, that's not going to happen because this one has 3 stars. But if it had been a single star, then this character would go to the jail. And if you're the only person at the location at the end, then you get to take the location, flipping it over for the money bags, placing it in your loot pile. That is how you win this. Now, in this case, the brawler did not get knocked out. The brawler would then activate their ability. If there are exactly 3 cards in the saloon, then take a loot. But in this case, that isn't true either. And so you would just go off of who's got the higher number. And in this case, the 7 is higher than the 3. So the outlaw player would get to take this location card. Then both characters, if they haven't had to go to the jail or the doctor's office, they're going to go to the saloon or hideout, depending on what team they're fighting for. So good guys go to the saloon, bad guys go to the hideout. And then you would fight over this next card using whatever cards you have left in your hand. Now these cards, these player aid cards, are going to help you to know what your opponent has in their hand, and it's important to take note of what their abilities are because a lot of the cards are going to interact with what the other player played, and you might be losing out on your cards and they might be ending up in jail, which is a bad thing because once your card ends up over here, it's really hard to get them back. The cards that are on this card right here, the hideout and the saloon, you can get them back by playing your 0, which is a no-show, and it allows you to return all the cards that are either in the hideout or the saloon. But the cards that are over here really only come back on specific location cards, a one-time deal, and so you really got to manage your hand well and be clever about what cards you're playing, otherwise your cards will end up over here and you won't have anybody to win these locations to win you the game. Now the game is going to continue until this deck runs out, at which point you'll see who has the most loot and that person's going to be the winner. Also, I do want to point out if there ever is a tie, say for instance both players play a 5, then in that case the outlaw player always gets to go first because they're the bad guys and they're crafty, and you would still activate both cards. You just activate the outlaw player's card first. There you have it. That's how you play High Noon Heist. Now let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on High Noon Heist from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. And again, this is running on crowdfunding, so make sure to check out that link down below in the description of this video. So Sam, it's a card game, and we've talked about it before on our channel here that card games can either be hit or miss just by the simple fact that they tend not to have a full game arc involved with them. There seem to be more similar. But this has got a nice little punch to pack with it. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing what some designers can get from cards, how much of a game you can get out of it, because sometimes they are pretty basic. Shallow. Yeah, but this felt like a game. It didn't just feel like a card game, if that makes sense. Yeah,
because there's a lot of thinking of what do I not only need to do on this turn, but what do I need to be doing on the next few turns, because it's got this nice little element of you've got 8 cards, because you got 0 through 7, and you don't necessarily get those cards back depending on how it all shakes out, and you've got to really manage that carefully, be clever about how you play these cards. So it's definitely a nice hand management game with that element to it. But I wouldn't say that the rule set is anywhere too deep for someone like yourself, like a casual gamer, to really sink their teeth into this game.
I think it's interesting that they chose to give each player the information about the other player's cards, which I think is great for a non-gamer. It works for a gamer as well, but you're kind of know what to expect a little bit, and you don't have to just rely on your memory, like, oh, well, when they played this is what happened. And if you kind of figure out your strategy, you can try to remember what cards have already been played, what cards are in their prison or in the hospital, and so that can kind of help you as well.
Yeah, I think it was a necessity to include that player aid to remind you this is what the other player can do to you. Like, be careful, be mindful, because there's so much of that. Oh, this is a great card. This is the exact card I should be playing. And then if you're not thinking about, well, what can the player play to counteract that,
Yeah.
that's going to happen a lot in this game. And that's just a fun little twist, right? Because you can really throw a wrench into your opponent's plans and throw a curveball that they didn't see coming.
Yeah.
That feels fun when that happens. And then you throw onto the fact that each location has its own special rule that kind of throws a wrench into the plans as well. It's just another little tiny layer of thinking that you kind of have to think about as you're planning out that turn. So a lot of cleverness with this game is the thing that really stood out to me. Plays in 15 minutes, and I think that's really accurate. That's what the back of the box says. I think that's super accurate. It says ages 8 and up, and I think that's pretty accurate as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it might depend on your child. Our kids obviously have played lots of games, and so I think they understand some components. Understanding the strategy of knowing what the other player can play might be a little
help.
Yeah, but could also be a little difficult for them to come up with a strategy.
How clever is your 8-year-old? I think is the question to ask on this one. But as a gamer playing this game, there was never a moment where I felt like, oh, this game's too light for me, or it's too simple. There's not enough depth to the game, because I think it absolutely does have that. It has a pretty incredible depth for it being just a small little card game. So I really enjoyed it, and I think there's some replayability with the way those locations are ordered and how they can change and shake out. So definitely one I think you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck with this one. You as a non-gamer, would you recommend playing this with other non-gamers?
Yeah, I think it's a great game to bring to the table with non-gamers.
All right, well, there you go. We also do have a playthrough video on this game, and if you want to check that out, go ahead and click the eye in the top right corner, and it will take you to that video. And we do want to thank Table for Two for sponsoring this video and for the playthrough video. But the game is High Noon Heist. It is running on crowdfunding. Make sure to check out the link down below in the description of this video.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.